Hello everyone, this is my psychic prediction video for the United States of America. So, when I tune into the United States of America, what I was getting was that I was seeing the United States shining very brightly, energetically. And I know that there's a lot of fear out there right now, but what I was seeing was that it's actually shining pretty brightly for the next 2 years or so, and around there could be some problems. However, I did also see within that time period of the next 2 years, or coming up very soon potentially, I was also seeing some waves of tough times through the West Coast. And I was also seeing trucks on the East Coast. So my logical mind kind of pieced it together to think that maybe there could be some sort of supply chain issues from the East Coast and maybe some of that stuff not being able to get to the West Coast. I'm not sure, but those were the visions that I was seeing. Another thing that I saw when I tuned into this was a rose that was growing, and it was actually growing despite what people may be saying about the US economy right now, despite what even I was thinking before I did this reading. I saw this rose growing for the next 2 years or so, and then in about 3 years, around 2025, I saw the rose start to become like dehydrated and the petals kind of became less vibrant. And I also got that this is going to be worse within 8 years from now. So in the year 2040, things may be really hitting the US at that point in time. So I do see the US losing global power. And that doesn't mean that the US is going to be destroyed. I don't see that happening. I don't see the US being taken over. I don't see the US completely collapsing like, some of the fear out there may have you believe. I actually see this as, for the whole planet, a good thing, even though for me, thinking about it, it's kind of scary to me to think about what's going on potentially in the future. But when I tune into this, I actually see it as being a good thing for the whole of humanity, although there will be suffering along the way. When I tune into Joe Biden, because he is currently the president of the United States, what I get from him is that he really does actually want the best for the United States, but he's being misled and he's being controlled. And these are people I'm seeing as those who he gets information from, potentially at meetings, or maybe even top secret information that he's being told. These sources seem to be manipulative and corrupt, and he has a lot of faith in them, and it's as if he has this kind of superficial level of just seeing the surface and not really scratching below it. And so he just has this faith in these people, even though they're not really, they don't really have the best interest of the US. They're more so interested in making money off of the United States and potentially even crashing parts of the United States in order to make their money. And they're basically corporate stranglehold over the United States as well as the whole world. But this seems to be especially negatively affecting the United States in particular, and somewhat targeting the United States. Now, I do see that those who voted for Joe Biden, um, actually, this is a prediction I made before Joe Biden was president, that I saw Joe Biden being protested by the same people who voted for him, and a lot of people just not liking him. And it seems like that's already happening, but I see this happening even more so in the future. And right now, I think his approval rating is lower than Donald Trump's was when he was in office, is what I heard on the news. So I think it's just going to get worse. I also saw an image of a poisoned apple, and this is kind of coming through. I want to say it's coming from Joe Biden, but it's not really coming from Joe Biden. It's coming from just the whole mix of everything. And it's as if we're being left with this poisoned apple. At least that was the vision that I saw representing this situation. So in the short term, I see Joe Biden on the TV and becoming more influential over the world. I think at one point I compared him to Mark Zuckerberg in one of my readings, and that was before the Ukraine war came out, and he became kind of like more of a spokesperson for the United States and all of the Western world. But I'm seeing him just becoming more so on the TV and becoming more influential over the world rather than just the United States. I do get the sense that he's going to either serve his full term or serve almost all of his full term. The only thing that I get that would stop that from happening is potential heart problems or chest pain. I do get the sense that Russia is going to have more power than people expect, and the US may have to actually compromise with Russia, and this will be not what people are expecting from what the mainstream media is telling people, because I see them actually doing a lot better than what we are being led to believe. Of course, they're damaged. You can watch my other videos about that. So moving on, in like 3 to 8 years from now in the US, I saw an image of buildings falling, and I think this could be literal, but also more so symbolic of the infrastructure issues around 8 years from now. Those kind of coming more to light within 3 years, really hitting it hard in 8 years. I see people guarding their money, and people and companies going bankrupt. There being a lot of angst and danger in the streets, and less people just out and about in the public in general. So the long-term outlook for the United States, I see corporations and the elite taking power from the government. So it's as if the government itself kind of becomes less relevant, and corporations take on more power, more influence over the world, more influence over the general public. And this seems to be kind of the plan of some of the more corrupt forces at work. I do also see a lot of innovation and technology companies going abroad and working with other countries more so than on US soil. Long term, also I see China, and the way that I saw it was energetically, but I saw China having their energy affecting the US, especially in the south of the US. And this is after like 8 years or so. And it's almost as if the south of the US is becoming controlled by China, or at least China's having some sort of influence over the economy. Um, but I also saw that the north of the United States looked like it just had like this gold band over it, and it was pretty strong still economically, and so it looks like that's actually the part of the US that survives economically better, although I don't see the US crumbling or anything or being like taken over necessarily. It's more just having the energy of China there influencing it. Um, However, I also see that China, their influence is less, well, it's more neutral, I guess you could say, and there's kind of like a change happening to all countries around the planet. It's kind of like a planetary change in consciousness, and so I'm seeing China politics being affected by this, and there's more of this like unity consciousness rather than, you know, us versus them, and so there's more interconnected, and so there's more of this globalization, I guess you could call it, but it's not necessarily just the globalization of the super powerful elite and the corruption involved in that. It's also a unity of consciousness at a higher vibration as well. So it's both of those at the same time. It's kind of got some bad stuff and some good stuff all at once. So I also see the US becoming more infused with Europe, and kind of like the policies and the foreign policies and just the economy and actions taken. It's almost like depending on Europe more just to kind of get by, but also other countries. And I just see this general interconnectedness, and I've talked about this with other predictions for other countries, where I just see like this interconnectedness with all these countries kind of working more together and just becoming more of an integrated world in general. So there's this general interconnected energy that is taking over the mindset. You could call it like a new wave of change that people are going to have to adapt to. And so this can be kind of hard for a lot of people, and some people may actually choose on a spiritual level to leave the planet, and many people will be passing away in preparation for this change, and I think we've kind of already started to see some of that, all of this change. I did a reading on coronavirus and that being, you know, multiple things involved, but the energetic kind of reason for why, I guess you could say, the universe had allowed it to happen was because it was part of a change that has been started, and this is all kind of part of the effect. It's being manipulated by corrupt powers, but it's also part of a necessary change of consciousness as well. So, you know, people like to say it's all good or it's all bad. I'm saying it's both. Ultimately, I do see it being good in the long term, though. So within this new wave of change that people are having to be able to adapt to, this sense of self-glorification that used to be dominant within culture is becoming dismissed and no longer relevant. And people are moving more into this harmonious culture, less so much of viewing people as, you know, me or I or you, and more so viewing the collective as us. So there's more economic efficiency coming because of this. So the corrupt elite do want to crash the system because they don't like it working in a way where they are no longer in power, and it's making them somewhat irrelevant on some level. And so they are wanting to take advantage of that as well and profit off of it, because when you're rich, you know where to put your money and what to do if you know what's around the corner, and you can make profit off of any sort of economic change. So that's what they're going for. Some corrupt people, that is. However, there's this like irresistible energy coming in, that's this organic, natural, cultural evolution. You could call it a revolution, but I would call it an evolution instead, because there's no like fight for it. It's more just a natural occurrence. Again, like I've been saying, this is about there being more connectivity and a higher consciousness within and on Earth. So just to summarize for the United States, I see the US weakening overall, going through some difficult times. China gains economic power, affecting the southern states. But the US survives, and people around the world are more humble and interconnected, and this is all just a first step in the new age. And by the new age, I mean the new coming cultural revolution / evolution. So I see this as, lots of mixed things, good and bad, but ultimately I see it leading towards positivity and change that is necessary for the human species to take its next step in evolution. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.